off again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot see.
Good evening. Welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It's Friday night. It's the start of your weekend. 3 Amigos with me, Steve, Mitch, and Keith. And Keith, we're just talking as we often do for 5 minutes or so before we came on air, and it's just a bad week for you, mate. You've lost a couple of mates, and I think it's important you put that kind of message out to the public because we're all like a lot of the people who watch the show are in a certain age category. So just say what you said to us before we came on.
Well, just the week on Wednesday, a mate of mine, Graham Thompson, 55-year-old, scratch golfer, had a little pain in his arm. He went. His missus had a pain the week before, and hers was COVID, and he went to bed. He saw the nurse next door. They all thought it was COVID. He went to bed, went to work the next day. 11 o'clock, climbs into his cabin, has a cardiac arrest and dies. 55. It was only bad the day before. And then this week, on Tuesday night, one of my best friends, Michael Hopper, 55-year-old, 6'5", only super heavyweight ABA boxer ever to win the ABAs from the Northeast. Great lad. He used to be head doorman in Durham. And he's been down Wales walking. He's had a little bit of short breath. And then a friend of his, as the nurse, checked his pulse out and said it was irregular. And his heart was racing a bit. So she said, you need to get checked out. He went home, it rested off, and he never woke up. Cardiac arrest and died. So 2 people in a week. And then I've had eye surgery yesterday. So it's been a horrible week. I just, I woke up in the surgery and tears run down my face. I don't know. It was, I think it was the lads that put us there. But if any of you get, pains in your left arm or pains across your chest or get short breath, like the Newcastle fan base is quite renowned, but we're not young. We're in older age group than most football fans, but you don't get much warning. It's called the secret killer. It's prone to hit people, populates 56 and 57. Mm-hmm. It's hardening the arteries, and it's very, very difficult to detect. You do get little symptoms like a bit of chest pain. Sometimes you get a pain in your left arm, and sometimes you're short of breath. But they are mild symptoms. I mean, these were 2 big, strong lads, and they just thought, they'll go to bed and sleep it off. One was at work, and one was in bed, and they are no more. But they were big units, 6 foot plus, thick set lads who could look after themselves. And it can happen to anybody. So, don't mess around with your health. I promise you, the best thing to do, I know it's hard getting the doctors. Wait till 5 o'clock and ring 111. It's amazing what questions they ask you and how you just get into the hospital. If it's genuine. But it's been a tough week. So,
thoughts with the families of those people, and our heart goes out to them. And
it's a shocking thing that when you just to put in there, Steve. Sorry, but there's an awful lot said about men's mental health and that type of thing, but we seem to have forgotten about physical health, and it's just as important, if not more important. So Keith's absolutely right, and condolences to the family of the 2 lads involved, Keith, and to yourself and to all their mates. Absolutely. Terrible news. We've just got to look after each other and look after yourselves.
Yeah, great point. And getting back to the mental health, look, it's only the 7th of May and I lost my mum, and I've had ups and downs, and I've continued to do the podcast, but I've got good people around us. I speak. I've gone through I'm still going through the 9 stages of grief, and I'm more than happy to talk about it on here. Toyed with the idea of doing a podcast about it. I'm not quite ready to do that yet, but I think I will, because, I think it's important that people, hear people who put their head above the parapet, that we're all human at the end of the day, and we all go through these things. Yeah. And I still get the trolls, I still get the rubbish sent to us by inbox, etc. And, it can hurt that little bit deeper when you're not, coping with the loss of a loved one. So I've had that kind of situation over the last few weeks, and wanted to get this out of the way really at the start after hearing what Keith had to say about the kind of week he's had. And I think it's just important. So, rest assured, rest of the show will be full of laughs, and let's have a laugh at Yano here, because his first thing he kicks off with is the person responsible for the poster has worked wonders with the 2 Steves. Took years off you 2 guys. Given the extremely low starting point, there must be a Photoshop genius. Well, cheers, Yano. Thanks, mate. Thanks.
That's why we're on the top.
Exactly. Let's Steve. Let's get back to football, mate. And Real Madrid and Bruno. I mean, you know, we've got plenty of players we want to get rid of that Real Madrid can have, and I think, you know, you lads who can drive will probably take them there and, you know, and drop them off. But Bruno, you know, Bruno to Real Madrid, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? And Eddie Howe handled it really well today.
Exactly, paper talk and, you know, the usual thing. I mean, are Real Madrid that worried about Newcastle that they're going to start to unsettle our players before we even get into the Champions League? Is that what they're up to? I don't know. Absolutely crazy. But I tell you what it does show is it shows the quality of a player like Bruno, that we have got the likes of Real Madrid looking at him, allegedly. Whether or not there was any substance to it, I don't really know. I'm not really bothered. We've seen various responses from Bruno. We heard Eddie Howe laughing it off in his press conferences earlier. I think that, you know, let's get this down to what's happened is they look like they're losing Casemiro. It looks like he's going to Man United. He might have already gone. I hope he hasn't. I'm hoping that Chelsea come in and they snaffle him right at the end, and that'll just give more angst to the Man United fans out there. Because wouldn't that be a laugh if that happened? You know, everyone that Man United get linked with, Chelsea nip in and get. But because it looks like, I mean, at the beginning of the week they weren't losing anybody. You know, there was no way Casemiro was going. He had the ear of Perez. He had the ear of Ancelotti. He was the man who's holding that dressing room together, so we're told. And then all of a sudden he gets out at 400 grand a week, and it's like, whoa, I'm away. Gotta get out the door quick enough at Madrid, you know. 30-odd-year-old, they're going to pay a ridiculous amount of money for him. They're going to give him ridiculous wages. And he's going to a basket case of a club as well. So you've got to question it all. But you know what? For me, what it does is it sets the scene for Newcastle now stepping in and keeping Bruno happy and bringing his mate, Mr. Paqueta, in. That's what it does for me. That's the way I'm looking at it. And wouldn't that be fantastic as well?
Yeah, Keith, I mean, look, it's the first time we've seen rumours about one of our big name players. I mean, ASM keeps getting mentioned. I'm sure ASM will get a mention in dispatches tonight. But yeah, Bruno, I mean, you know, just ludicrous, isn't it, to suggest that the player that's come to Newcastle, who loves Newcastle and the fans love him, would even consider moving. And Eddie Howe stamped quite quickly on any suggestion that there could be a clause for him to leave if he wanted to.
I think it's opened up all kinds for me, the whole Bruno thing. You just mentioned about getting trolls going on. I don't get any now. I'm not complaining, but I get a lot of calls. I've had 2 this afternoon from people who have mental health struggles. And one of them was really flapping about Bruno. And he said, you know, Keith, we've just got to the point where we've got a team we can build something around, and it looks like we're going to lose him. And I said, you know, we're not. It's, you know, we simply are not going to lose Bruno. And the reason we're not going to lose him is because when you've got more money than everybody else, money doesn't mean anything to you. And the only thing you're going to get off Bruno is money. That's all you're going to get. And the only way you'd let Bruno go is if there was somebody better to buy, where you buy Bruno for 40 and you get 120 for him, and you go and get that player you've always dreamt of for 120. But when you've got hundreds of billions, what does 100 million do? I mean, we're talking here petty cash in the grand scale of things. And there was a documentary on the telly about a week ago, and it was about, I think they called Tamara Eccleston, Bernie Eccleston's daughter, where she'd had a robbery, and it was £26 million worth of diamonds. And when you watch that documentary, you learn things from it, because what she was trying to express was what them things meant to her. There was things bought to her from people who are no longer here. There's things bought from people she loved dearly. And if someone come along and said to you, when you've got 26 million, if you've got 26 million pounds worth of diamonds, you've got hundreds of millions beyond that. You don't spend all your money on diamonds. But when someone comes along and says, look, I'll give you 2 million for that diamond, you just say, nah, I've got 26 million quid's worth. And that diamond came off somebody special. And someone says, well, I'll give you 2.5. No, it's not for sale. 3, no, it's not for sale. And that's where Bruno is. He's a diamond that we've picked up at the right money, but he's done something special. And Eddie Howe quoted today, what he's done is he's come to the club without any clauses in his contract when we were in relegation fodder. And he came along and he said, I'm prepared to fight for me players. And he had no get-outs. There was no get-outs. So Eddie Howe's reiterated that today. Eddie Howe said, there was no get outs in his contract. So what my message to people who are struggling with all the transfer merry-go-round is just calm down. You know, this club, it's awful to say, but have so much money that money doesn't mean the same to them. And they're never, in a month of Sundays, ever going to take 120 million off Real Madrid for Bruno. They're not going to treble the money because they'd be undoing the belief of all the lesser players, the Sean Longstaffs, the Frasers, the Almirons. They're gonna look and say, shit, why have we sold our best player? Because you can't get away from the fact Bruno is our best player. He's head and shoulders playing beyond himself, and he's playing with a smile, but he's rubbing off on people. And I think the only thing this will do, I think that this will get the club to realise the value of, you know, Bruno, which I think they already realise. You know, Amanda was giving him a cuddle as she went on the pitch at the end of last season. I think they realise that, but I think what they'll do is I think you'll see this, if it's at all possible, accelerate the recruitment of Paqueta, because I think they know that by going getting Paqueta, you're going to tie a player down who's he's the jewel and he's the diamond in our whole group. So I think there will be some truth in it. There was a great tweet went on today from some people thought it was Bruno. It was from the like NUFC Bible, but they did a brilliant thing. They put that what's it called, Mitch? That film in
Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, he did the Wolf of Wall Street video, which came on, and it was outstanding. You know, it's like a bloke saying, "I'm staying," and you'll have to get a pecker or something to smash the walls down to get me out of here. And it was a good way to summarise why Bill's here, but he isn't going anywhere. He's not for sale, and money can't buy him. Because if you took Bruno out that squad now, you'd destroy everything you've built up. You wouldn't just take one player out; you'd take the rebuild of Newcastle back to square one.
Yeah, I mean it's pie in the sky. I think. I mean, I know Real Madrid's a huge club, Mitch, but you know, it's a strange one, isn't it? And you know, as I say, Eddie Howe's press conference, he batted it away quite easily, I thought, today.
Everybody knows we're coming, and they'll do everything possible to disrupt,
You're
and
right.
upset,
You're right.
and stir the pot. It's going to happen.
Well, they're not going to work. It's not working.
The club, interestingly, seem to be wanting to shift away from contracts with clauses in. I had it suggested to me this week that for all their open listening offers for ASM, for example, they've also offered him a new contract with an increase in wage and all the release fees removed from the contract, and they want to move away from having players on contracts with the release clauses in them. Which I think is a very interesting way to go. It also means we hold all the power when it comes to negotiation on price. And so, look, if Real Madrid want Bruno, they're going to have to. They would have to bust the record to do it.
It's not going to happen.
But I don't think it's going to happen either, Keith. But the reality is they'd have to bust some sort of record and knock out their own FFP and start selling off their granny's media rights for the next 200 years to sort of balance it all off. And that's the reality of where we're at. We're being dragged into these conversations because everybody knows we're on the way.
I've got more for
we're
you.
going about our business nice and steadily and quietly in the background. And while a lot of people are starting to panic, and there's absolutely no reason to panic, we're going to get targets and we're going to get the people in that they want at the right price, and everything will work out. I can't believe that they're not looking at the situation we've got at the minute and not saying, right, we need to do X, Y, Z, and not do that by the end of the window.
I agree.
And I think this is where we all need to just take a chill pill and let the process happen.
I tell you what, there's more chance of me needing a hairdryer. There's a Bruno leaving Newcastle.
Depends what you do in your own spare time, really, Keith.
Financial fair play is something that's getting talked about a lot as well, Steve. I mean, not Forest, you know, are going berserk. Chris Banks has put, when I heard Forest had spent over 42 million for Morgan Gibbs White, I thought they'd both read players. But that's a good one. But yeah, Steve, it's one of them, isn't it? It's just trying to re-emphasize to people that Newcastle United, you know, the way that they've been run frugally for the benefit of one man and one organisation, i.e. not Newcastle United, but Mike Ashley and Sports Direct, has put us in this position. Our turnover means we're only allowed to spend a certain amount, and we're doing it properly. We're doing it over the course of the next 3 seasons, probably over the course of the next few windows. It's a club that they're trying to build on cement, not sand. I keep using that expression, and I'll continue to use that. But yeah, it's I think just an idiot's guide to to financial fair play was put out on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, which we referred to. But it's just constant. I think that's the thing that winds people up on social media. You can't look at what Forest are buying. Why aren't Newcastle doing this? And the fact that nothing is getting out of the club from nothing's been leaked out of the club. Therefore, we're getting linked with all of these players by all of these journalists who don't know anything, and then suddenly that player goes to a different club and people are going, well, how have Newcastle, the richest team in the world, missed out on this? That's why people are getting frustrated, Steve.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. It's as though, as well, on the flipping side, that somebody's told Nottingham Forest that they've got 26 years of not being in the Premier League to use on their FFP, and it doesn't work like that, lads. They've just gone balls out, haven't they? They've just thrown everything at it, But you see, this is the gamble that a club like Forest can take. When you get an owner who is probably not steeped in English football, who thinks, you know what, we're going to go for it. What he says, they're going to win stuff. He said that on the day that they gained promotion and were one of the best teams in the previous league, but didn't make the top 2. Had to go up through the playoffs. Didn't play very well in the playoff final. I mean, they'd had a fantastic run all the way through. They started off the season rock bottom and managed to get into playoffs, and then they managed to win the playoff game. And the first thing he said was, we're going to win a cup. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And now he's throwing the money at it left, right, and centre. One of the worst teams we've seen at St James's Park in a long time when we played them on the opening day. If ever it was men against boys, it was that fixture. But they just seem to know that they didn't play that well on Sunday. I watched the game against West Ham. The crowd were fantastic. Naturally, it was their first time in 26 years back in the Premiership. It's a fairly decent sized crowd. It's a decent ground. It's a kind of Premier League ground as we know it, and it's steeped in that history. But as I listened to Martin Keogh talking earlier this morning, he said, you go into Forest, and it's a mixture of modern and oldie worldy. There's something about it. And he says, you walk into the boardroom, and there's like a sideboard from somebody's dining room. And then on the sideboard, you've got the 2 European Cups, and it's just like weird, it's a whole dichotomy. But this guy's got in there, he's got excited, he's throwing money at left, right, and centre. And I suppose the big gamble for him is that because the rules haven't been changed yet, is if they do go down, they'll get a massive parachute payment that'll cover it, and then they'll come straight back up again because he's bought quality, depending, of course, on what the release course is in some of those players that they've bought. The very thing that Newcastle are trying, as Mitch has insinuated earlier, that they're trying to remove. So it's as though they're playing fantasy football at the moment there. I mean, no manager, I don't know about you guys, but for me, no manager worth his salt would go into a season with 16 brand new players. This is the sort of thing that happens when a non-league club collapses, goes down into 3 divisions, and then there's an entire new bod come in. It just doesn't sit right for me. It seems a crazy thing to do, and I'm not seeing many outgoings at Forest either. So God knows what's going to happen in the next fortnight when they're trying to clear out probably 30 players or something ridiculous like that. It's fascinating, but I'm just glad I'm not a Forest fan, because just trying to keep track on who's in the squad, who was signed this week type of thing. Far better to do it the way Newcastle United have done it in my eyes.
Yeah, Keith, it was an interesting one. The Toon Tell Tales put up here. He says, Steve, we've got to talk about what Keith Downey said today, saying the Toon only offered 20 million for Maddison plus add-ons because we only have 20 million in the bank left for transfers. I mean, I'm not sure what Keith Downey's source was, if that's what he did say. I mean, I've been busy all day. I've not caught up with anything on social media, not seen anything like that. I mean, Keith Downey tends not to put out rubbish, and if he has said that, then that is interesting. But yeah, I mean, what's your take on the whole you know, the whole situation at the moment, the financial fair play and the situation we find ourselves in.
I think when you talk about Newcastle, I think somebody said this today, said, Eddie Howe's just turned around and said he's only looking for one more player. And I said, right. And he said, Keith Downey says, I said, first of all, like, Keith Downey knows his stuff. But when the takeover went through, takeover was passed on a Saturday by the Premier League. And on the Wednesday, 5 days later, Keith Downey was still on there saying the EPL have yet to agree to pass this deal. So he doesn't know everything. And he is a credible journalist. And he does tend to say what he believes, what he gets told. But when do you expect Newcastle to turn around and tell the journalist, oh, we've got still got 150 million to spend yet, mind, and we're still looking for 5 players? Why would they do that? Where's the benefit in telling somebody what you've got to spend, how much you're prepared to pay somebody, and how many players you need? So for me, I still think we'll get 3 players in. I still think we'll get 2 permanent signings and a loan deal. But Eddie Howe and Newcastle United's owners are going to gain nothing by telling any press exactly what they're going to do, when they're going to do, and how much they're going to spend. So in reality, what I love about Newcastle now is none of the press know. None of the press know exactly what's going on. None of them. So, you know, and if you have a look at it, I mean, you look at. I mean, there's local journalists said we had 50 million to spend at the start of the campaign. He's adamant we had 50 million. Well, that's gone. But and then this week he's saying which 3 players we're looking at. So they just, what they do is they guess a story. And you touched on it earlier. You said, you know, with most people tag Newcastle into transfers to get the money up. I think agents do it. I think the selling club does it. And if you notice, whenever Newcastle go after a player, the club often announces it. So as soon as Watford announced Pedro saying, you know, he's not for sale at all, that to me means we want to sell him as much as we can for him. Now, if they don't want to sell him, why would they make an announcement? It's quite straightforward, all this. You know, it's like, it doesn't need a genius to say that there's games being played left, right and centre. But Newcastle are keeping the powder dry and they're doing what they're doing. When you go back to Forest, it's a total different ball game. I mean, in fairness to them, let's defend one thing they do. And Steve touched on some at the end about buying 16 players. You'd never put that many new players into the team ever. But the reason they did it, Steve, in a big extent, is they had a lot of loan players. They had the biggest ratio of loan players out of the Championship last season. So when their season ended, they had loaned a lot of players off some top clubs who called them back in the same that we called Anderson back in off Bristol Rovers. Forest had really, really done well in the loan market. So much so it got them promoted. So I think that 6 or 7 loan deals, I think it was that kind of number, that were just gone. And there were also people that were suitable for the Championship and probably weren't ready to keep the team in the Premiership. Then they went out and got the likes of Lingard, which was, you know, a big gamble in anybody's book. And then they started buying players. But as soon as you start buying all these foreign players, there's a big settling in factor. And for me, there's another factor on Notts Forest, which is never in the club. It's mad, passionate fan with big pocket full of money. And I think it's a recipe for disaster. When you've got a fan who's passionate about his club and he's chucking his money around like a sailor on his first night ashore, there's a hell of a risk that you're doing things on emotion. And when you stand up and say, we're going to win something straight away, you know, as a Newcastle fan, that's a hell of a statement. You know, like, we'd love to win something, but if you talk to us 4 here, we'll happily take the League Cup. We take that this year, you know, progress in the league, still climb up that league. Let's get from 12 further up. But the League Cup, go to Wembley, win something, would be a brilliant season. And, you know, get you some kind of European qualification or whatever. When a man comes up with a team that basically didn't look like they were going up for a lot of the season, but they get up, well done to them. I hope they do well. I think the fact that they've spent, you know, I've got a soft spot for Forest this year that you don't want to see them go back down. You know, I'd like to see them still because they're good for the league. But let's keep it sensible. I mean, you know, you can't settle and bed that many players in. And when you've got a football fan who's loaded with money, to me, it's like an angry boxer. You know, I've never seen a good angry boxer fight well. And when you've got a football fan going in the casino, it's like a man going in full of drink. You know what I mean? And he wants to show how much money he's got. I'll tell you something. If he wants to show how much money he's got, this league will find him out, because he's got a lot of money, but he's not in the league. You know, you've got 10 years to catch up to Liverpool and a Man City, and you've got in your lifetime they'll never catch Newcastle up for money. So to break in the top 6 is a big thing. But if you said to me, who's a team capable of breaking the top 6? If I named 2, I'd say Newcastle and Brighton, because of the way the clubs are being set up and structured, and you can't buy 16 players and go, there you go, all get in, all get on. I'll tell you what, the one thing you'll never get out of 16 new players coming in is the kind of atmosphere, camaraderie, and team spirit that Eddie Howe's gelled.
I've got to remember as well, on the amount of players that they've brought in and the calibre of player they've brought in, their wage bill must have gone from, 20 million to 80. So on top of the 150 odd million they've already spent, they've added probably another 60 million onto that wage bill as well. And the ground still only holds 30 odd thousand, isn't it? You know, so you're thinking this is where they've basically spent everything that they've been given, you know, before they've got it. This is the gamble. This is the worry that people do this type of thing, you know. And this is where you're looking at the control, and everybody's just going, "Oh, well done! You've bought 16 players." Absolutely crazy from a financial position, looking at it for the stability of your football club, you know. Weird.
He's the owner's taken the immediate financial future of that club and stuck it on red in the casino. He is the drunk China. He is the drunk Chinaman in a Macau casino. He really is just going for it. And if it comes off, it'll be spectacular.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't come off, it could make Stuart Donald and Charlie Methven look like financial geniuses in the football world. And I think that's the real. People really aren't calling this as it is. It's a huge gamble, and he's banking on getting. He's banking on getting the parachute payment, and they're already talking about adjusting parachute payments soon. He's banking on getting that as the stopgap to get them out of trouble if they go straight back down. It's frankly ridiculous, and everybody who's applauding it really need to give their heads a shake, because it is not the way to run a football club. No, because he wants 10 million and nobody's prepared to pay 10 million. Exactly. And so he's holding out for the deal he wants, and that again should tell you everything.
And I think if you look at how he doesn't get silverware, he gets to stay up. That's if he wins. But same we're going to get silverware. There's only really there's 3 trophies, isn't there? There's the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the League Cup. And do you not think Arsenal are going to do the brains in to win the League Cup? Because I do. I think in the later rounds you'll see the teams get stronger and stronger. But I think the Man Uniteds in the world are going to try and do it. And just to say I'm going to win something, that's crazy. That's a stupid statement, because we're going to fight them tooth and nail for every one of those trophies and hopefully compete with them in the 2 cups. But when Newcastle, they've got a far better team than Notts Forest, and it showed on the first game. So why say that? And I hope for his sake he stays up. But Mitch has hit it bang on the knuckle when he says, if you want to go to a casino, go to Macau. That's where the real casinos are. Go in there and they'll find out how much money you haven't got, not how much you have got.
That's exactly what he's doing. And people worrying about how we're playing it. Well, I'm sorry. I think I'd rather be in our shoes. Really,
I'd agree. Well, a lot of people saying we can't find anything on Keith Downey. I mean, look, as I said, I've not seen any news today, so we're going off what one of our contributors in the chat said. It could be true, it could not be true. I don't know, but if it's not on his timeline, I would say that he probably didn't say it. So we will wait and see what comes of that. This has got to be my message of the night so far from Ron Bennett. He says, I saw Mr. Hasty picking dog shite up outside the corner house on Wednesday. He didn't wave when I tooted.
Classic.
How are you, Steve?
Oh, if you've waved, you might have slung the dog shit at him.
Exactly, Dog need to run the road.
You know, wave to your fans, like, for God's sake.
I did. I tell you what, I did hear somebody toot, I must admit, and by the time the speed that they drive along that road, I didn't notice who it was.
So, Ron, you were speeding.
Apologies, Ron.
You were
Apologies.
speeding,
Next time
Ron.
I'll
You
leave
were
the stop shit and wave. No, not council. Shit, no.
Ah, it's a classic. Okay, good stuff as always. We've got plenty to get through on the show. All your usual favourites. Let's start with this one. The day I met, where we ask you to send in photographs of you meeting famous people from Newcastle United's current or days gone by. And thank you to Paul Capewell for this one. I'd love you to put this on Day I Met. It's not every day you get to kiss the Messiah. So there is Paul and his good lady kissing Special K. And there is the other photograph of them together. Thank you very much for that. And I think, is this another one? Yes, it was. It was Raymondo with Keith. Down at the match in 30 odd degrees heat in row A. But Raymondo sent us that. He wanted us to share that moment, Keith. He said he had a great time with you, thoroughly enjoyed it. And we've got a point as well. So he featured you in the Day I Met. But great stuff. Keep them coming in. Send them to me or any of the lads, and we will get you featured on the show. Now, I'm not going to start talking about the man's game. We did that on Wednesday, and that nearly got into a proper mess. BT.
Thanks for leading me across that pond on the lily pad.
I loved it. I love the message that was sent by Mitch afterwards, walking on mines with Wraith in the podcast. Okay, BT is going to get us walking over another familiar mine, and that's this one. He says Saudi Arabia has boasted to the world that they are improving women's rights and creating legal reform, but there is no question with this abhorrent sentence that the situation is only getting worse. We call on the Saudi Arabian government to immediately and unconditionally release Salma al-Shihab. We want to see her free and united with her family, and we want to see her convictions squashed. Mitch, I'm going to come straight to you because you're our Middle Eastern expert with a very good brain on him and somebody who speaks a lot of sense. So I deliberately swerved this the other night because we were having conversations about other stuff. I just want you to give us your view on all of this. And if, again, it's the football club and us. We're a podcast. We don't represent the football club directly. We just comment on the football club. But what's your view on this and you know this situation? Is it detrimental to us trying to say, look, we're moving on? Or
we will, as a fan base, be put in a difficult position with this. And like I've said all along, through talking about Saudi and takeover with everybody for what feels like years, as football fans, we're not here to solve the world's problems. We get blamed for everything. In the UK, currently, football fans are being blamed for cocaine culture. Well, no, that's actually a problem in society, not just limited to football fans. But now we're also being asked to be champions of human rights again and to fix everything in the world when all we want to do is support a football club. It's quite clear we're put into difficult situations on occasions by, for example, one of our board members using the hashtag Vision 2030 in a tweet when he's talking about sport, football and golf. And then, of course, people use that then to say, oh, well, but we thought this wasn't part of the government and thought there was separation between PIF and the Saudi state. When it comes to sentences like that, like the one you're describing, we're commenting on a legal system in a different country that works in a different way. And it is different. And even the legal system here in the country I live in the UAE, is different. 2 weeks ago, there was an Australian lady deported for a post she made on Facebook. you do have to be careful how you use social media out here. It's quite ironic in that, however, my personal Twitter account, for example, I wouldn't run it the same way I run it if I was in the UK and still had a UK General Dental Council registration, because of some of the more spicier and near the knuckle tweets that I put out would get me in trouble with the General Dental Council, probably, believe it or not. So it happens in the UK too. But obviously the sentences and the outcomes are very, very different. But it's also very difficult to comment on the legal system of a different country. It just doesn't work the same way. And that's not to say we can't object to it, and that's not to say we can't ask questions about it. And I think as a fan base, this is the unique position we have. We can have people within our fan base who can actually write sensible, level-headed comments and ask sensible, level-headed questions coming from the right, with the right heart and the right frame of mind, with no malice and no means to attack, but to actually ask Saudi Arabia to think twice. I think the profile of this case, because I think the lady's got connections to Leeds, hasn't she? In Leeds University, I think she's.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, and I think you'll find this is one of those cases where somebody will intervene somewhere along the line and things will change. And I think Saudi Arabia would be very keen to push that as a good news story if that was changed. And it's the kind of thing I think may happen. But it's a very difficult situation for us as the fan base, because here's another stick for people to beat Newcastle United with. Here's another stick for people to ask us to ask the right questions. And it gets very, very complicated again. And as a fan base, I think we'll get used to it, and we are getting used to it. But it doesn't also mean we should ignore it. We can't just blindly stop and let things happen without the opportunity, perhaps, to raise questions. This is the kind of thing where if Amanda Staveley wanted to step in and ask a question on, in that respect, that I think that's a wonderful conduit to be possibly used, because the connections to people in senior positions within PIF are quite clear and apparent. Just look at our board. And so questions can be asked that will go further in the tree. And I think that's the fair and right thing to do. I think as a fan base, we've just got to be not seen to be ignoring this and dismissing it, because then it's very easy to say, it's just sports washing and use it blind to it all. And no, we're very aware of it. And in this region, Saudi are very keen to be promoting the fact that they are trying to move to change, and things are changing. But what people are asking Saudi to do is a generational change in 5 minutes, and that's not going to happen either. It's within a generation we were still hanging people in the UK. It's in a generation we were still putting single mothers in mental hospitals in the UK. So those kind of changes come, and they come to every society in different ways, because every society keeps its own character and religious background and legal background. But I think the change will come, and it is coming. The Dubai I live in now is very different to the Dubai I moved to 10 years ago. I can tell you that straight away. And it's still changing and evolving, and Saudi has a lot of catching up to do to us here. But at the same time, I think the will is there, and I think it will be wrong of us just to ignore this situation. And I think it's to ask nice questions and fair questions. It really... I think it really is important as a fan base that we're not just give a free hit to somebody to say, oh, you've all been sports washed and you're just ignoring this, because I think that's not right either.
Keith, I'm going to come to you with a question here that Steve Middlemas has put out. Ben Jacobs, one of your people who, when you first came on the platform, you'd have a bit tete-a-tete with him. It was probably one of our most watched shows during the pre-takeover days. But he keeps saying that it would be more beneficial if somebody from PIF came out and said something. And that's what Steve Middlemas is suggesting here, Keith, that PIF could maybe communicate. They are the majority shareholders at Newcastle. They own the club. Would it not make more sense that they come out and say things, not about this particular issue, by the way, but just in general?
I think it's a good point that Steve Middlemas brings up, because if PIF came out, I guess you've got to remember that PIF have made a statement that they are separate to the government. So if they speak, its logic would follow that they would only speak on behalf of an investment fund that's invested in Newcastle and not as the Saudi government. But that's my problem, because this lady targets Newcastle fans. And I've got to tell you, if you look at me as an ordinary Newcastle fan, I've got far bigger pressing issues in my life than worrying about what she's worrying about. Now, clearly that's massive to her. I respect that. I've got a lot of respect for it. That is something that ticks her list. It's big. Go and speak to the people who are doing it, or that can do something about it. Because Newcastle fans can't do anything about it. And coming to us is just an absolute waste of time. Because all you're doing is you're lobbying people who's if you said to me today, what concerns you as a British person living in Britain, I'd say the fact that a guy, 87-year-old, can't go down the street in a disability chair without getting stabbed to death. That bothers me a lot more than what's happening in Saudi Arabia, because I live in England. So why would it not? Why would I not be more bothered about a man? I mean, it would upset me if a man was 50-year-old in a disability chair and get attacked, because I think ageism comes into it. He's 87. A disability comes into it. He can't run away. He's in a chair for a reason. So I'm more concerned that I live in a country where you can't go down the street in a disability chair at that age and get an allowance for it and a recognition to say that guy needs a chair to be mobile, and that guy's of the age, he's got to feel safe. So I'm more bothered, and I'll get on a high horse, I get in a boxing high corner about that man not being able to live safely than what I would with what's going on in Saudi Arabia. Because I'm not from Saudi Arabia. I've never been to Saudi Arabia. But if it bothers you so much and it bothers your family, then get off your ass and go to Saudi Arabia and speak to them. Or go and lobby in the proper format. But where does lobbying, let's suppose the man who did that murder supported Gillingham. Are you going to go and brave Gillingham's doors down and say it's your fault you support Gillingham? No, it's the man's fault who brought it on himself to attack somebody in the street that age and stab him to death. So what I can't understand is, what the hell has this got to do with the average Newcastle fan? Because even Mitch lives in the region, and he puts a really valid point forward about moving on, but we're just football fans. Nothing anybody says to us is going to make a toss of difference. So you can have a go at me all you want, and I'm not going to go and speak to anybody who's going to listen to us about this matter. So Steve Middlemiss's point is very, very valid. Why, PIF could come out if they want to, but that's a tricky area, because they've already said they're separate to the government. If you're going to lobby somebody to change government policy, you don't go and lobby an investment fund that is separate to government. You go and lobby the government. And to go and lobby some Newcastle fans who have an investment fund that's separate to government and think that's anything more than making a noise, getting on a drum and talking shite out your ass, then you're wasting your time, my time, and everybody else's.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Steve, you've listened intently there with what's been said. Do you agree?
It's a decision that's been made by the judiciary in Saudi Arabia. The judges who have listened to our case and have come up with this arbitrary figure of, 34 years in jail, because they feel as though what she's done warrants a 34-year sentence. We might think it warrants nothing more than a slap on the wrist in this country. Are PIF anything to do with the government? We've argued that they're not. Is PIF anything to do with the judiciary? Certainly not. And this is where things start to become slanted. I was out last night, actually, with 4 Saudi Arabians. I had a meal.
You washed your hands after picking that dog shite up.
That was Wednesday. And you know what? The conversation never cropped up. The conversation was all about football. It was all about the match on Sunday. It was all about them going home on Monday or back to Saudi Arabia for 4 weeks on holiday. and how they were looking forward to being and meeting their family, and then how they were looking forward to being back at the game in September, at the end of September, beginning of October, when they returned from the holidays. That was the conversation that we had. At no time did it seem to be even on their radar to talk about this lady. I think she was a dental hygienist. She was doing a PhD at Leeds University, from what I understand. She's been here for quite a number of years. She's made a comment. She's then gone back, expecting to bring her family back over. And somebody has been monitoring her social media account and feels as though what she said on the social media account has threatened the position in Saudi Arabia in terms of causing ructions and making comment on issues that people don't normally comment on in Saudi Arabia. But as I say, we know very little about the case other than it suddenly appeared in the newspapers on, I think it was Tuesday. But at no point did the conversation crop up, and we were out for a good few hours last night, having a great time, eating some wonderful food, talking about life over here, talking about how they're enjoying being in Newcastle. Some of them have been in Newcastle for 7 or 8 years themselves, but how they were looking forward to going back home and spending some time with the family, but also how excited they were about going to the match on Sunday as Newcastle United fans, watching them play Man City in the petrodollar derby, as they were calling it. You know, I mean, it's you know, we live in a crazy world at the moment. It is, and we're often asked to talk about things that we know absolutely nothing about, and it makes it very, very difficult to come up with a rational answer that's not going to upset somebody somewhere. And you know, you really, really do have to educate yourselves before you can come up with some logic. You can't just go, that shouldn't happen, this shouldn't happen, throw a curveball out there. I just find the whole thing at times depressing. I find it confusing. But I'm a football fan, and I'm here, and I'm looking forward to a match on Sunday, and I enjoy the company of my Saudi friends yesterday with my family, my wife, my daughter, my good friend Bill and his wife, and the guys and girls from Saudi. That's what
I like to give a platform to everybody. And Mark Earlham says, NUFC matters. It says it in the title. We should stay on topic. Mark, unfortunately, we are connected to Saudi Arabia. Well, fortunately, we are, because they got us out of the Ashley mess. But what I'm saying is, unfortunately, on this occasion, BT's asked a question a couple of times in the chat, and I respect everybody who asks a civilized question in the chat. And that one had to be asked. And we've got a 2-hour show tonight, and I've got people who are capable of answering the question in an intellectual way. And that's the reason that we've done it. So I know you weren't having a dig there, Mark. Maybe you were just saying, you know, that's it. But I just, you know, we should stick to football. But sometimes it does cross over, especially with the kind of owners that we have now. So we, you know, I would like to see it stop. I don't really give a monkeys about what is going on in another country. It's bad enough what's going on in this country. Never mind what else is happening elsewhere around the world. You know, with food banks having to be in existence, more food banks now than there is bloody certain branches of you know, certain bakeries and stuff. This is how bad it is now. It's just it's a farce. So yeah, I get your point, Mark, but we did have to broach that subject because it is an important one. Okay, tweet of the week. Yeah, tweet of the week. We've had lots of these sent in. Thank you. And it's a very Manchester United theme this week. This one from Wayne Bennett with a Manchester United fan deciding now that he's going to support Manchester City. Brilliant, Wayne. Love that one. Then we've got this one from Wayne as well. A young kid sitting on Santa's knee. What would you like for Christmas? A unicorn. Be realistic. Man United have finished in the top 4. What colour unicorn? Very good. This one from Wayne as well. Helping to auction the Saint Shearer ball. Man United trying to auction this off. David De Gea's gloves. Don't miss your chance to win a pair of them. Big gaping hole in the middle of them, of course. This one from Wayne as well. Even Ladybird are telling us it's totally, yeah. You've got the theme that's coming here. This one was a little bit more subtle from Troll Football, courtesy of Wayne. The Premier League race, as you can see, Chelsea ready for the off. Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, and Manchester United facing the wrong way. This one was from Gianfranco Schola. Thanks, kindly sent in by Zora. Even Man United's fixture list is laughing at them, and if you can just see down the side there,
very good.
Sky Bet Championship, although it wasn't them, I have to point out, but I was sent this one in. Hi there, Manchester United. That was one of those accounts which just changed their name to Sky Bet Championship just for the crack. This one, 4-4 F&2. Shocking sees at Brentford Stadium as stewards are forcing Man United fans to stay and watch the game until the final whistle. And this one, breaking news, Eric Ten Hag to be replaced by, you've guessed it, Coronation Street's Roy Cropper. Darren, getting back to Newcastle United, says he's amazed how many directors of football there are amongst the Newcastle United fan base. Let's hope Dan Ashworth is listening to their obvious expertise.
Sure he is.
Quality.
A little bit of sarcasm there from Darren, but on the money. This one is from Paul. Now, you might remember Paul, the Subutio team that he donated for the food bank. Yeah. We've met him, and Malcolm McDonald signed it, and we made a good bit of money from that. So Paul says, I've got a story of something that's happened to me that's quite funny. He says, feel free to share it with the world. As you know, I had issues with Castore, so I ended up getting the white shirt elsewhere. Taking into account the reliability and cost of Castore, I thought I'd try DH Gate. Other snide companies are available for the Ben's home kits. £40 for 3 kits with Bruno on the back. Bargain, I thought. Look what turned up. 3 bloody Everton kits. He's got no luck at all, poor Paul. Tried Castoria, the legal route. Then he's gone down the route of DH Gate and unfortunately come a cropper there as well. This one from Wayne, Nick Pope. Very good. Following on from the madness that was going on Twitter last week. This one was on Rob Lee's Facebook. I'm friends with Rob on there. Happy birthday, Alan Shearer. Both looking older, son. Very good. Nice of him to use the Newcastle Legends photo there as well with the Newcastle Legends badge. Great to see our regular, who was in the chat tonight, I believe, Jimmy Moore, looking well. Finally home, a few antibiotics, £12 later, but at least I get to enjoy the match at home. Thanks to everybody for the well wishes. Jimmy, it's great to have you back in the chat, mate. I've seen you down there in the last few days and making yourself at home again, and just hoping that everything works out for you, Jimmy, because obviously it's great to have you as part of the NUFC Matters family. Hopefully one day as well, we might be able to get you across here and maybe even get you at a game. Who knows? It would be great to see you, mate. So carry on the recovery. Great to see you, mate, and welcome back to the chat. This one from Zara, NUFC Blue Star tweeted this one. Declan Rice is the best midfielder outside the top 6. I'd say Bruno disagrees with that. This one from Dean Woods. The Benz had his photo taken with Super Kev at the South Shields match. I am wounded. Of course, he's manager at South Shields. Murray O'Connell, that stupid walk when someone's mopping a floor and you know you're going to walk over it, but you don't want to see how sorry you are to be walking over it, so you make yourself look like you're walking over hot lava. Yeah, I think we've probably all done that before.
We know that one, Steve.
Definitely, no doubt about that. Just a Chuck Norris one randomly from Zara as well. Chuck Norris once strangled someone with a cordless phone. Remember when that was a thing? Chuck Norris did this, Chuck Norris did that. Yep. Jack Castle went for 1 pint after the gym last night at 5, and now I'm on my way to Brighton. I had a good time.
Well, it was great.
Burger King, you all right there, admin? Besides Jordan Pickford is England's number 1. Burger King replied, imagine being this wrong. Pope is the clear king.
Go
I
on.
went on for days. This one, the Rockcliffe Files. Yeah, I've met him a couple of times. Good lad. This Villa Everton game's like watching two well-dressed pensioners dance to the organ in the Blackpool Tower ballroom. Something historically and beautifully regal about both, but you can sense both will be dead and buried by Christmas.
That's a great analogy. That Blackpool.
I loved it. Yeah, it was a
Tower
good
Lounge.
tweet, that. It didn't win. 9-year-old. Hey, Dad, I've got a pun for you. Ooh, what is it? 9-year-old. It's like a joke where you play with words. I just got Leslie Nielsen by my own child. Brilliant. Last few. This one from Ian Smith. Getting back to our favourite deluded world of Mackham's page. Must have been on those you had to be there moments. And this is where the guy on the Mackham forum says, always remember when we played the Mags, when they had Denver Bar, and someone at the North Stand sang, Denver Bar, you shagged a sheep, bar. Still tickles me, that. Honestly, these Mackhams. Honestly, get yourself onto the ready to go message board. It is brilliant. Just honestly, there's hours of endless fun on there. Well worth watching. There's no doubt about it. This one, we've had Jimmy. Sorry, this one. We're just showing you what it was like down at Brighton. I know Keith was down there, but this was a great tweet. Shared the points, shared the sun cream. Quality from Brighton and Hove Albion and NUFC supporters this afternoon. That was actually a video clip. If you check out the guy from Brighton, you just see the Newcastle fan lean over and hand him the sun lotion. Fantastic. It's just and the feedback that I saw between fans, Holly Blades in particular, and a couple of others, just a proper feel-good factor between the fans and how much they love going to each other's grounds. This was good as well from Kenny Hattle on Facebook. Shut up for president. I don't need to read the name out. I think it's quite obvious what he's called. Unfortunate surname. And this one, Miguel Delaney is possibly the stupidest man to think he's never wrong. Miguel Delaney then replies, please point out to me where I've been wrong, James. This should be good. And then Arjun goes, well, he's called Dave. To drop that down for one.
I thought it was class, that, like, especially with the lady.
I love it. Yeah. This one was good as well. Rocky Tune, looking through his old CDs, never knew they'd made an album about Sunderland. Lazy Town, very good. Yeah. And this one, Michael Holden. It's actually going to be cheaper to go to the World Cup than it will be to stay here with the heating on. Very true. This one from Nick Pope himself. Nick Pope, when he finally got his Twitter account on.
Brilliant.
Last two then. Lucy Nickel, I've just discovered Nordic space-saving hangers, and I haven't felt this excited since I saw The Prodigy live circa 1996. Good last, Lucy, and I hope Chris is doing okay if you're tuned in. He's a top lad. And last but by no means least, I make no excuse as a music fan for picking this one. Ian Hull, Roy Uberson, anywhere you want, you got it. Anywhere you need, you got it. Brilliant. I love that one, Ian. I do like the little ones that you're sending. Keep them coming in. Tweet of the week. Plenty of them out there. If you find one, tag us in it, send us it, and we'll get it on the show. I thought I'd better play his theme music because he's coming in a bit early because I'm not here on Monday. I'm having a night off. I'm actually at a wedding on Monday, of all days. So he's not got his show. So I've got him in to do a full hour. Here you are, Borough Mag. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. 6:15, you said.
I know. Well, I did the tweets of the week dragged on. I've got to keep.
Have we? Can I just check if we got all the intellectual, political crap out the way, and now we can just get on the movie? Is that what we've done?
Yeah, that's why we brought you on.
Good.
Lower the tone. Yeah, look, good to have you on, Joe. We'll do your tune tips a little bit later on. Yeah, you've been listening to all of that. Give us your opinion on it. I mean, you've coined it really. It does drive people up the wall, doesn't it? A little bit. We're just interested in football, mate.
Yeah. Well, I just listening to the perfect sense that you've been talking, Steve. I actually texted Keith just as Keith finished what he was saying, and I thought it was absolutely spot on. Steve, we say it time and time again, don't we? Yes, we've got to be aware of these things. We are owned by Saudi Arabian, Saudi Arabia ultimately. But for me, there was a comment in the chat that basically just said, what's this got to do with NUFC? And that's where I lay my hat, Steve. I think I can see why PIF might, people might think PIF need to come out and say something. But as Keith said, this whole takeover essentially was about trying to prove that they were a separate entity and weren't related at all to the government or therefore the laws of the land. So as far as I'm concerned, the lads have said it all, Steve. I think the sooner we can get back to talking about Manchester City and leave the politics to the politicians and the legalities to the lawyers, the better for all of us as football fans, I suppose.
Why, aye. Okay, let's get back to football. Steve, Carl McVeigh asked a question earlier on. He said, out of all the players, 693, who we are linked with, who do you think we're going to get? I mean, obviously, some of them have been sold with their clubs now. Pedro seems to be one that Newcastle are going to push until they get him over the line. But there are other names. I'm not going to, just off the top of your head, Steve, in recent weeks, who we've been linked with. Who do you think is more likely to end up at Newcastle within the next 2 weeks?
Paqueta. Yep, that's what
Pedro,
I think.
Pedro, do you think?
Pedro, possibility, but as I said on Wednesday night, I see Pedro as one of those players who, the price is getting higher and higher, but I still see him as somebody for the future. For me, Paqueta, he would give you another dimension. He can play on the left, he can play on the right, he can play as a number 10. He's good with both feet. I think it provides you cover for a striker. It gives you that he can play off let's say a Chris Wood if Wilson was injured, but he can slot in on the left if you want to swap him for ASM. You swap on the right if you wanted to swap him for Almiron. He can play alongside in a holding role in midfield. He's just one of those players that has. We used to call him versatile. He's a Brazilian with 33 caps, and he's a quality act. And I just think that the way that Newcastle have been playing, and I think the style of football that we want them to be playing, I think he's the perfect fit. I think the other lads, you look at all the other lads who have been linked with, is it Nunes or was it Ramos? Sorry, and the others, they're all around about the same age, 20, 21. They're all future players. I think it's Newcastle United speculating to accumulate. And they're all very much of a muchness in terms of goals scored in their career to date. None of them have made that many appearances either. So that's why I think going for the experience and the link with Bruno and with Joe Linton in midfield and that triumvirate of Brazilians, that's what excites me at the moment. It might all change in a week's time when he signs for Real Madrid, but how are you?
Okay, Mitch, Junior Turner asked a question there. Can we have each of your predictions on how many signings and who before the window closes, lads, please? So we're tying this in, really. I still think 2. I'll give my opinion. I still think 2. I think looking at this whole Pedro thing, I think we will get that player. And I think Paqueta is a good shout. I still think we will break. I agree with you and Stu, Mitch, that we'll probably break with transfer record to bring somebody else in. And I think Paqueta might be the most likeliest of option. If we bring Paqueta and Pedro in, we might as well get a full yellow strip for next season.
I think we'll go one further. I think we're going to have 3 Ps in through the door: Pedro, Paqueta, and Pulisic.
Okay.
I think that will happen. That's just the feeling I've got about the way they're angling. I think deals are starting to fall into place, and the approach they've taken, I think, will pay off.
Okay, Joe, your thoughts, mate? We've done the transfer show all the way through the summer. We've got a good insight into some of these players that have been linked. Is there any change in your mindset? Is there anybody who you think that we'll have through the door in the next 2 weeks?
I don't think so, Steve. I tend to agree with Mitch, actually. I don't think the Pulisic thing's gone away as such. There's a little part of me that thinks Paqueta has always been there, and at some point we will sign the guy. So why not do it next week when we really, really need to? So if it was me, I think we'll get Paqueta. I'd like to see Pulisic, but I think if we're getting the guy from Watford, I think it'll be Paqueta and Pedro, and then Callum Hudson-Odoi will come in on loan.
Okay, Keith, your views?
I did a tweet 3 days ago, which was what Mitch has come with. I think I said I think the Pulisic thing is real. I still think he thinks that at some stage he can break into Chelsea's team. But the other thing, they're on massive money, these guys. Pulisic is on crazy money. So if he came, I think it'd be a loan deal with Chelsea paying a lot of his wages. He's on apparently over 200 grand a week. So if we go out and sign anybody on permanent deals, I would say being Pedro and Paqueta and Pulisic on a loan deal. But it depends how it's going to play them, because people keep getting carried away. They keep saying, oh, we've heard they're not going to go for this player because Wilson won't have it. That's not what Eddie Howe's building up. He's not building something up where Wilson tells him who to sign. What Eddie Howe's building this thing up, hence with his offer to St. Maximum, is all these contracts with clauses in are coming out. Bruno didn't sign one. Botman hasn't signed one. So why should anyone else? And what they're saying is everybody that goes on that pitch, it'll be challenged. And so for me, I think Mitch's call of, I think is right, is it's Pulisic, there's other teams in for him. There's other teams would like to take him. But when you're talking about player, I think it's 57 million, and he's typically a right winger. We've got a berth for him straight away. Paqueta will get any team. And I genuinely think that Pedro and his camp are keen to come to Newcastle, but they know they'll be fighting for Wilson, and Wilson will come off 20 minutes to go, and Pedro will come on, and Wilson will get injured, and Pedro will get injured, and I think that's genuine competition that centre forward. Personally, I mean, that's what I think will come. Personally, from what I've seen of Ramos, Steve's touched on, Steve Hasty, yeah, I mean, he looks a real player. Like, I think in 5 games he scored 4 and made 3 or something. You know what I mean? He's got a crazy record for the start of the season, and he played with Núñez last year. So I think Ramos looks as though he's going to be a real player. But this coaching squad, if they look at Pedro, it's because he's got massive potential. When they're talking about, I heard today that there was a suggestion that 27 million had been accepted. So I think that, but don't rule out what George did at theirs, because Newcastle, Amanda and me, were down there at the game as guests of the owners. There's a closeness being built up between Newcastle and Chelsea, and Hudson-Odoi. The rumour is that Hudson-Odoi fancies a stint at Newcastle. You know, it's been on tonight. There's somebody quoted on here that Pulisic fancies Newcastle. So I could see us taking 2 players out of Chelsea, and I wouldn't rule out 4 players coming in. But to me, the one player that takes us to the next level, the one player that brings goal to our midfield is Paqueta. Get him signed, get him in, and his money is spot. If his money is 34 million, like, you know, I tell you what, it'll be a lot more than that for the World Cup. So that's my predictions.
Yeah, Life Goals is on a bit of a mission in the chat, going on about Newcastle. Are Newcastle trying to sign players on levels of attractiveness? Interesting suggestion. Like, yeah, in that case, he suggests that we potentially might sign Maddison as opposed to Paqueta. But then, you know, some people might fancy more of the Paqueta look than the Maddison look. Life Goals, I don't know.
I think Maddison's deal's gone. You know, unless Leicester drop to levels. But when you see a bloke going to Notts Forest, who's got 1 cap for 44 million,
it's ludicrous.
You know what I mean? When you see him go for 44, you can understand Leicester wanting 60. But when Maddison's 60 and Paqueta's 34, one's world class with 33 Brazilian caps.
In the
It's
words of
no-brainer.
Piers Morgan on his programme on Talk TV, the world's gone nuts, mate. It really has when you're paying that kind of money for him. Okay, let's go to the departure lounge. Yano says, if we get 3 in, who are the 6 that Eddie leaves out, Steve?
Good question. Good question. Would you leave out Shelby, bearing in mind that he's not going to be fit until the winter break? Because let's
talked about it last week. You've got to leave him out. He's not going to be fit.
Let's call it. It is a winter break because the season ends in November, end of November. So, and they're saying he's not going to be fit till then. So you might as well leave him out. So there's one place going. For the rest, it's a good shout. It's a good call. It's all going to be in the midfield, isn't it? Where there's going to be a string of players. We've already got rid of a couple. You know, I mean, we've saw Kieran Clark leave, and yes, he wasn't in the squad, but we've seen Gale leave, so he's gone. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody came in for the likes of Lascelles, to be perfectly honest, because I don't think Lascelles is the sort of player, given his stature, who would be willing to sit around, not getting in ahead of Byrne, ahead of Botman, ahead of Shaw. You know, so I think that there's a possibility there. I can't see Fernandez being part of the squad. That's another gap. And after that, then you're starting to talk, will Matty still be there? You know, Sean, for me, will be there. Will Matty be part of it? It's you know what? Then you're looking at Eddie likes Murphy, doesn't he? I mean, Murphy seems to be the first player he brings on. He likes Murphy and his attitude. But again, Murphy's going to be a bit part player with some of these players that are coming in. And would Murphy be looking for a move away, or would they be looking to move him on? I think this is where it comes down to even Fraser, for example. Does he have a spot? And I think it's a case of whether or not the players are going to be left out and shipped out, or whether they're going to be left out like happened last season with Kieran, and just not part of the squad and just told, well, you know, you can pick up a wage, or you're gonna be around, but not around, if you know what I mean. Or whether they're actually got offers in for players and they're just waiting. And that's why I think somebody implied earlier there that the last week of the transfer window at Newcastle could be very, very interesting. Could be almost like a steamroller going down a hill, couldn't it? You know, like it could be absolutely, you know, monumental in terms of where the club's heading. And there will be players. You've got the added problem with the goalkeepers as well. We've got 4 goalkeepers. Gillespie, the one that misses out. If the other 3 remain, we know that Pope's now number 1. So where does that leave Dubravka? Little places that you could have seen Dubravka going, like Leicester, for example. They've suddenly gone out and bought goalkeepers as well. So I just find this is why I keep implying it. This is why Eddie Howe gets paid the big money and we go to watch, because it's his decisions, not ours, at the end of the day.
Yep. Okay. What's your views on the outgoings, Mitch?
I think you're going to see a flurry of activity as the window starts to close. And I think we'll be active on both incomings and outgoings, so I think we'll have to be. As Steve's alluded to, it's tough choices, but that's what they paid the money for. And it's quite nice to be talking about difficult choices. That means the squad's got a bit of depth to it. It's not immediately obvious about who we should jettison and who we should keep. Though I think most of the names that Steve's mentioned make sense to me. And I think that's again expected to be active on both sides of the transfer window once it starts to close.
Okay. What about you, Jordan? Who do you see going out? Lots of names getting suggested. Lewis, Fernandez, Manquillo, Longstaff, Ritchie.
Yeah. I just very quickly made a list, and if we are to leave Shelby out, I guess that takes one of them, depending on the length of his injury. Yeah, Matty Longstaff, Matt Ritchie, Freddy Fernandez, Manquillo, and probably Lewis, although I am aware that there's probably 3 players there who could probably do a job at the back. But I think looking at that left-hand side, particularly where Lewis might have got a shout. I think if you think about what Dan Burn did last week at Brighton, you know, Botman's clearly got a left foot. Matty Target's there now, so the reliance on Richie won't be there. So if the reliance on Richie isn't there, the reliance on Lewis certainly won't be there. The goalkeepers, you can take your pick. And actually, to be fair, it's probably about time that Carl Darlow moved on, I think. So Gillespie seems quite happy doing what he does for us. So I'd maybe leave Gillespie where he is. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. And here we are. All we do is talk about incomings and how many will we sign. We definitely need to sign at least 3. We know that. But you know, you can only have a certain amount of people on your wage bill at the end of the day, can't you? So if I was to leave people out, that would be my list. But I'm sure there's going to be some outgoings, and it wouldn't surprise me if you don't see the likes of Fernandez and Richie not just left out of the squad, but I think there'll be a way, to be honest.
Keith, who's out the door?
I think with Anderson coming in the midfield, I think he doesn't count in the squad numbers. I think that gives us more coverage there, and I think we're going to bring players in. I think we'll bring 3 or 4 players in between now and the window. Definitely 3. And so I think Manquillo is still useful. I think the manager likes Murphy, so I think he's useful. So what I see is I see 3 sales. I think we'll sell Carl Darlow. I think we'll sell Lascelles, and I think we'll sell Matt Ritchie as these players come in. I think they'll do that because they'll know they're not going to get a game. And the 3 people I think he'll then leave out is Matty Longstaff, John Joe Shelby. Think about it, Shelby's out till January anyway with the World Cup, and Fernandez. And I don't think there's a place. Fernandez is never going to get a game. Shelby's not going to be used till January, and there'll be more comings and goes in January. And I think you might even see Longstaff go on the deals. But I think there's going to be some selling done. And I think Lascelles will realise and Richie will realise they're not going to get in the squad. So 6 going out for me. Fernandez, Shelby, Gillespie. No, Fernandez, Shelby, Darlow, Lascelles, Richie and Longstaff.
Okay, big shout out to our sponsors. As always, big thanks to Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals. You can find them at 304 Old Durham Road, Gateshead. Telephone 0191 478 2730 or visit the website www.darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists. You can find them on Nunn Street in Newcastle or at their website www.thegohd.com. And thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk, or by calling 01768 210 102. Thanks to Away Day Clothing, and thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wolves and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. If you want to subscribe, it's free. 7 shows a week. Hit the NUFC Matters logo in the bottom right-hand corner. And that's it. You can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up under the video to like it. Click share to share to your social media. And drop into the comments box to post a comment to us or to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show has finished on YouTube. If you want to become a member, click join under the video. Or if you want to spend a little bit of cash, become a cult member and get a cup, a pen, a membership card, and a scarf and entry into the monthly draw. Then go to nufcmatters.com and click membership. Or put your camera of your smartphone over the QR code. It will take you straight there. If you want a free car sticker, go to nufcmatters.com and John will send you one out. We support the food bank on the show. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the virtual match day bucket. Get yourself on there and make a donation, or pop up to see Steve Hasty and the gang at St James's Park. They will be opposite Shearer's Bar pre-match on Sunday before the Manchester City game, taking your donations. And don't forget, Peter Beardsley Soccer School is still running through August. If you want your young'un to learn from one of the best who played in black and white, for more information, get yourself to the website, peterbeardsleysoccerschool.com. Super Mac and I will be at the Dog and Parrot pre-match and after-match, 2:30 pre-match, and around about 7 o'clock post-match on Sunday. It's free entry, kids welcome. get yourself down there. It's always good crack before the match. As I say, good food, good beer, good crack. And we did announce an event last night, an evening with Paul Gascoigne in association with Gold Star Promotions. Monday, the 3rd of October at Shearer's Bar at St. James's Park. Compare for the night is Gibbo. Gaza will be there giving some unique insights into his time at Newcastle, Tottenham, England, Lazio, and the rest. For information on that and where to buy tickets, go to nufcmatters.com. Tickets are selling quite fast already, as you would imagine. John from QTech always does a little prize once a month. Last week's clue was Zazon. This week's clue, silver medal winner, 2020 Summer Olympics. Jot those 2 clues down. You'll have a 3rd and 4th clue to come, and then a question. The first person in the chat will be the winner. So that is your clue for this week. Okay, time to give Toon Tipster his little intro once again. But you've got to wait, because first of all, he gets his set up by Toon Stado.
Hello, amigos. Hello to all watching. Man City at home on Sunday. So many stats, not all of them good ones for Newcastle. Newcastle has beaten Man City only 8 times in the Premier League, and 7 of these are before 2006. In the last 29 games, Newcastle has won only 1. Back in January 2019, we all remember the famous win with the Rafa in charge. When it comes to clean sheets, we know that Newcastle started with 2 in the first 2 games. We haven't gone 3 games without conceding since 1961, back in the old 2nd division. When it comes to the top flight, Newcastle hasn't started 3 games without conceding a goal since 1902. Maybe even Stephen Hasty won't remember this one. Now we face Man City, who have scored 4 or more in the last 3 games against us. And Pep Guardiola is 10 out of 10 wins against Eddie Howe. Actually, it's the best managerial record in the Premier League of one manager against the other. So a very tough task on Sunday, but let's see what the lads will do. Away the lads.
Great to have Andre's contribution. Toon Stato, always good. And he likes to have his music, so we better play it. Here he comes. It is Joe Walker, Toon Tipster. I'm gonna get myself some Kenny Everett gloves for that. I love that music. Well done, Neil Jackson, Media Rots. Okay, over to you, Burramag. The floor is yours.
I've seen you dance like that on a dance floor before, my friend.
I have.
Aye, absolutely. That was before the music was on. Right, here we go. The weekend starts right here. So here we go. We've got our biannual bookie nightmare to look forward to when we face Manchester City on Sunday at Gallagher. And based on what Andre's just said, the bookies are going to be right. Newcastle are very clear second favourites at 13-2 at home. The draw is a huge 4-1 if you think we can nick a point. And Man City, of course, come in at 4-11. Stick them in an acca. Don't put money on them. Both teams to score is just under evens, but you can get the same price if you think that Newcastle won't score. Over 2.5 goals is 8-13, so well fancied. And 13-10 if you think there'll be less than 2.5 goals. 1-0 Newcastle, 20-1. 2-1 Newcastle, 22-1. Ones each, 10-1. Twos each, 20-1. And here we go. 1-0 City, 15-2. 2-0 City, 13-2. And if you think we'll get gubbed 4-0, you can have 16-1. Erling Haaland is favourite to score any time at 8-11, followed by another 7 of his mates before you get to Callum Wilson at a decent 7-2. ASM and Big Joe drift out to 6-1 this week from the usual spot at 4-1. Bruno and Joe Willock at 11-1. And if you think Kieran Trippier will bag us one over the wall, you can have 18-1. The Food Bank Fund has got 30 quid in it already, thanks to Big Joe's yellow card last week. So we've had a fairly decent start to the season. And I'm going to go with the bookies this week, actually, and stay away from the goals and stick with the cards. So another fiver on Big Joe at 10-3, or just over 3-1. That'll return us about 22 quid, but also the same for Fabian Schär as well. So hopefully, if the pair of them get booked, we'll be sticking another 40-odd quid in the bucket. For the tickle this week, it wasn't too far away last week, if you remember back. So I'm going to try again with over 1.5 goals in every Premier League game this weekend, starting on Saturday dinner time and ending on Monday night, is 8-1. And if you fancy the same bet on Saturday in the Championship, you can get 23-1. There's plenty of goals around. Super 6 is open for predictions until kick-off tomorrow. Don't forget to lock your scores in, especially those who are still languishing at the bottom of the league with 6 points, claiming that they've forgotten their password, Mr. Wraith.
I'm actually locked out of the account. I'm never going to be able to get back in. The banned us from it.
Well, you will come last. That's a good thing.
Well, I'm always last with a surname Wraith.
So there's 94 people in the league now, which is fantastic. And a special shout out this week to Mr. Byers and Mr. Thompson, who had a fantastic week too, and they've flown to the top of the league with a massive 30 points. So good luck, everybody. Bet safe if you're having one, and please don't chase your losses.
Now, while I'm going through the old the run through before we ask the lads about their predictions for this, can you get me a little price on the Joshua fight, because it's the big boxing fight this weekend? Have a look at that. Have a look at that, Joe, while I'm having a chat with the viewers, and then get back to you.
What you fancy, Steve?
Newcastle United take on Manchester City on Sunday, 4:30 kickoff, live on Sky Sports. Of course, we know John Joe Shelby is out for the duration. Matt Targett's going to undergo a late fitness test. Ryan Fraser should be available, but the fitness of Emil Kraft is still to be confirmed. As I mentioned earlier, Super Mac and I will be at the Dog and Parrot from 2:30, and the return leg after the game will be round about 7 o'clock. As for Manchester City, well, Calvin Phillips has returned to training after a minor injury. New signing Sergio Gomez is expected to be in the squad that travels to Newcastle. Of course, Manchester City's start has been flawless, a 2-0 win at West Ham and a 4-0 win over Bournemouth at home. Referee this weekend is Jared Gillette. Last time he took charge of a Newcastle game was Newcastle's 2-1 home win over Leicester in April. VAR, which is often switched off at St James's Park, is Peter Banks. Don't forget to check the trains schedule when you're coming up on Sunday. Although there's no rail strike on Sunday, the rail strike on Saturday will still affect the timetables, and they have been reserved and revised. So you need to have a check of your timetables. If you do come up and travel from anywhere, please double check, because you don't want to get stranded and miss the kickoff. Although with there being a late kickoff, it should be a bit helpful to you. Joe, have you got any comments on this whole boxing scenario?
Yes, sorry guys, I forgot all about it actually. So if you fancy Usyk, he's absolutely nailed on for me. He's coming in at 8-15, so clear favourite. 13-8 if you think Anthony Joshua will step up and win the title back. 16-1 if you fancy one of Eddie Hearn's dodgy draws, and we'll do it all again. Have you got a round in mind, Steve?
I think this fight, because Usyk's come in heavier than last time, I didn't think Joshua would win this. I think Joshua's going to win it now. I think both fighters will go down in this fight, but I think AJ gets revenge. And I don't think it'll go the distance. I think it'll go 8th or 9th round, and I think it'll be a stoppage. I think AJ will win.
8 or 9 round, Anthony Joshua, 25-1.
Well worth a bet of anybody's money. That fiver, 25-1, chaps, 8th round. Usyk's come in heavier. He's fatter. I think he's took it a little bit easier, and of course he's been fighting on the front line in Ukraine. So I genuinely think that's where we're at. Yano's got a double AJ to get knocked out and Wood to knock out Grealish. Usyk 4th round, says Jack Sparrow. TKO, says Sensei Bap. Okay. haven't even started the lookalikes. Steve Hasty, we'll come to you now. Manchester City.
Yeah.
We're talking about free hits, aren't we? We're talking about free hits and all that. This is a real chance for Newcastle's crowd to get behind their team and really make it cause an upset here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if there's ever a need for a 12th man, it's when you play Man City, isn't it? I mean, got off to a great start against West Ham, away from home, and all in 2 goals. And then he goes and makes his home debut, and he only touched the ball, 8 times apparently. And 2 of those, I think, were kickoffs, or 3 of them were kickoffs. No, 2 of them were kickoffs, I think. Anyway, regardless of that, the thing is that if Haaland, if you were at Man City game and you were relying on Haaland's heat map to keep you warm last game, then you would have froze to death because he just wasn't in the game whatsoever. Is that a good sign or a bad sign? For me, the guy he's a beast, and I'm just looking forward to seeing him. I was also looking forward in a couple of weeks' time to seeing Núñez for Liverpool, and obviously he's got himself sent off and he's got a 3-game ban, so we're going to have to wait a while for that. But no, I always love when we play Man City. I like the way they play. You know, they move the ball around. But I think that if you look back on that time when Rafa completely did Guardiola and we just soaked the pressure up and then got that 1-0 win, you know, that was, for me, it was great. And there was another game where we actually, Colin Whittle, Bill Corton and myself were in the director's box as guests of the club. And we sat with Mike Summerby. And Mike Summerby came up at the end of the game and just said how crap his own team were and how great we were, and how he loves coming to Newcastle and he loves the fans and the atmosphere that's created. And I think that this is going to be a big game, and I think there'll be some surprises in the crowd. I think that, you know, everybody's going to be really up for it. And you know, I listened to the odds there, and I had already said 1-1. I don't know why. I just had this feeling we might be the team that takes a point off them. You know, points off them. I just feel as though 1-1 is there with us. I think, you know, both teams conceding goals. We haven't conceded yet. That's a good sign. But I thought last week how we didn't concede, I don't know, because of those goal line clearances. But it shows you that the team were up for it in that respect. So I'm going 1-1. And I think it'll be a cracking game. And if it's anything like the game we watched last weekend when Chelsea played Tottenham, if it's played at that sort of pace and it's played with that sort of passion, then there's going to be 52,000 people going to be leaving that ground very, very happy that they've seen what is like a proper Premier League game, because that was what that was. Despite the shenanigans at the end. But I don't think there'll be shenanigans on the touchline, but I think there'll be certainly some excitement on the pitch.
Yeah, I've taken 2-2. I did the shout out last night on the show. I think there'll be goals in this. I think Newcastle will create a bit of a shock. I think and they might flag towards the back end. I think Newcastle will be in the lead, and I think it'll be a 2-2 draw. Mitch, as always, we ask you to get the dice out. Have you got them? I know you've got them in your hand there. Go for it.
Yeah. Whoa. Come up with 1-1.
Oh, 1-1. I think we're all settled for that. What do you think, Mitch, off the top of your head? Do you think that's a possibility?
That's where I was headed. I think it's a fantastic yardstick to play them at this time of the season, getting a measure of where we're really at. It's a free hit. Let the lads go for it. Let them express themselves, and see how we can take them on. We've got the energy and the drive and the work rate in the team to match, and I think that's a fantastic platform to build from. I do think we look like we're missing just a little bit of X factor in there somewhere, but I think that give us the point now, I'd snap your hands off for it. But also, I would like to see a good performance that tells everybody, yep, we're here, and we're going to bloody your nose. If you let us come at you, and if you let us outwork you, and I think Guardiola's already made reference to work rate and not being able to win second balls and finding it difficult to win second balls against Newcastle. This is the next season with Eddie working at them that little bit longer since we played them last. So I think, I think 1-1's very possible.
Okay, your views, Joe?
I'd absolutely love to think you were right, and I think if we had the opportunity to take a point now, I'd shake Guardiola's hand, and I wouldn't bother coming up on Sunday. The realist in me, I mean, they're absolutely fantastic, aren't they? And I mean, I think one of the nice things is I'm not sitting here now panicking, hopefully, but in years gone past, you're thinking, is it going to be 5, 6, 7, 12? How many are they going to stick by us? I think our defence speaks volumes. Our goalkeeper had a blinder and looks like a cracking goalkeeper. So it's been an interesting test. You're going to see how good Dan Burn actually is. You're going to see how good Sven Botman is. You'll certainly see how good Nick Pope is. And yeah, I mean, some of those City players, believe it or not, do have an off day. I mean, you're still waiting for Grealish. We talk about Sam Maximin, don't we? But they've got a £100 million footballer, don't forget, who hardly pulls trees up. But I just think for me, there's too much, isn't there? If it's not De Bruyne, it's Ford, and if it's not Ford, and it's Mahrez, and so we go on. And here's us talking about, if Callum Wilson's not on form, where are we getting goals from? So everybody's going to have to be on the top of the game. I'd love to think we'll nick that 1-1 with Wilson scoring and Shah and Joe Linton getting booked. So my heart will go with Mitch. My head will say we'll get beat 2-0, and that's better than 6-0, so I'll take it.
Okay, Keith?
Last year's aggregate with Man City was 9-0, I think, to them. I think that's what the two fixtures were, 9-0. So when I looked at this fixture, I thought to myself, 2-1 to them would be like a tidy result, because if we got beat 2-1 of Man City, it means we've had a go at them, and it's a massive improvement on last season, because I think was it 4 out and 5 now last year. We got battered, we got absolutely torn to shreds, and Eddie's record isn't good, so that's where my brain was. My heart was saying, you put a full crowd on a Sunday afternoon in St James's, and that makes a difference. And my heart's saying we could win this 2-1. But when I've got to make a prediction, I've just been on exactly the same page as Steve and Mitch. It's 1-1. That's what I come with. I think it's got 1-1 written all over it. Don't get us wrong. I'm not expecting one. I'm hopeful it's 1-1. But there's a side of us. There's a side of us thinks they are that good, but they do struggle to win the second ball, and that's what we don't struggle to do. Newcastle win that second ball. If our team's changed in the last 3 years, it's been the team that didn't win the second ball, the team that does win the second ball. So it's there to be won. It's there to be got at. Mitch has said we played them early in the season, so why not get ripped into them? While you go past, slap little Grealish on the face and knock him off onto his backside. But I don't want to look forward to seeing Núñez and Haaland at Newcastle. I want them to go back talking about St Maxim, who lit the pitch up, and the Bruno just oozed the class. And if we get all the ball in that midfield, and if he puts the right team up, sets us up right, and I wouldn't be frightened to go 5 at the back and play one up top and play. I wouldn't be frightened, because I think it could frustrate this team, and I don't think it's beyond us. We could win this 2-1, but I'm going to go 1-1 prediction.
Yeah, okay. Interesting stuff, as always, from the lads, and looking forward to the game on Sunday. Time for Elliot's Joke of the Week. Congratulations to our daughter on getting promoted to manager at our local library. We're very proud of you, Paige Turner. I did like that one. Very good, Elliot. Keep them coming, son. Keep them coming. And now for Keith Patterson's laugh. Not many Steve Hasty this week, but that's not a bad thing. Watching unheard and looking pops up. Gets everywhere. Thanks, Peter Guy. And this one from Sam Chipperfield. I see Steve Hasty isn't a fan of his new look. Brilliant. It's the same old faces, Steve. It's the same old faces. This one from Albert. The damned Amigos. Me, Mitch, and Steve seen better days than that. Thank you for that one, Albert. And this one from Terry says, did anyone else watch Keith trying to breathe with his kids' John Allen's shirt on? I feared for him.
What a shirt that was.
He's back to normal now, though. He's back to normal now. This one from Anthony Lewins. He went, Steve Wraith, look alike. No one can tell me this isn't Steve Cooper.
Yeah, good. The eyes are perfect.
It is. It actually looks like him.
It's good.
And this one from Steve Hasty. Another Steve Cooper look-alike.
Poor fella.
Poor fella. Christ almighty, all the stick Steve gets. Poor fella. This one from Darren Morgan, Gibbo and Rodney. Looking at each other. Very good, Darren. Like that one. And this one from Tom, Ian Curtis and Craig Gordon.
Ah, yes. Interesting.
Paddy McGuinness and John O'Shea.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Blobfish and Steve Bruce.
Yeah, I can see that.
It was Pato.
Blobfish, that's weird. That's a horrible looking slimy thing. That 100% Mag says, here's another lookalike, guys. The late Leigh Riotta and Nick Massey, the bassist from Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
Wow. Definitely.
Yeah. Good one. And this one, Wayne Bennett, lookalike, coach alike.
subtle Wayne.
Very good, Wayne. You featured. You've almost had your own section tonight.
Yeah, hasn't he?
Brian, this one. Thank you, Steve Wraith, for putting Man United in the relegation zone. You're the best manager in the world. Keep going, mate. Yes, I do know that I look a little bit like him. We've had this one as well. Another comparison. This time from Paparazzi. Del Boy and Rodney versus Super Mac and Gibbo. Okay, coming into the final furlong. And this one I think was from Rich. Yeah, quite good that. Even looking the same way.
Yeah.
It's good, isn't it? It's very good.
And this one from 100% Mags. Another lookalike. Warm Andy's bodyguard, Eddie Hall and True Geordie. I think he'd like the comparison. I met the guy as well a couple of times. He's a nice kid. Yeah. I think he would appreciate that. And Albert, sensible lookalike, Denise Welsh and Eddie Izzard.
That's really good.
Don't think Denise will like that. But I get that before our lawyers get in touch. Nick from the fella who's watching tonight. I'm not sure if this was a lookalike. Happy birthday to the brilliant Barry Venison. I did just pick that up on your timeline, Nick. Sorry, mate. This one from Jacob, who's been watching tonight. Here are some lookalikes for this week's Amigos. Christian Romero and Mitrovic.
Can he?
Yeah.
Mitrovic and Miggy.
No, nothing like.
The hair.
And what was the other one? NUFC fan and Jason Statham.
Yes, I can see where he's coming from on that one. Yeah,
it's the one on the right hand side, isn't it?
Yeah,
the one on the left looks like Putin.
But the one, if you look at the one on the left, he hasn't got the abs though, like Jason Statham, though, has he?
Nah, definitely not. Not like you, Keith, mate. Not like
exactly. Ripped to bits, man.
Top two. Here we go. Mark Byers. Very good, that Mark. I know he's out on the drink now, so he's missed this, but I thought that was excellent, mate. Really good. The expression on the face, very, very good. The winner is this one. Andre, and the guy who looks after Amanda Staveley.
Yeah, it's mad that.
Very good, mate. Very good. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for suggesting that. Some great lookalikes. Keep them coming. We do like to make Keith laugh. Keep them coming. Send them to me or the lads on Twitter, and we will get through them. Okay, slightly earlier finish tonight because Mitch looks absolutely knackered. And don't forget, Stu Penman. Stu Penman is in his neck of the woods as well. Like, so we'll have him on the drink. But as always, some great contributions from everybody, including the trolls. Great stuff. This there was somebody decided to get a shirt with me on. Dave, Holly, and Gemma decided to get one of those Joe Linton shirts with me on. So NUFC ITK said absolutely disgusting. Then Terry Armstrong, one of our regular viewers, decided to chip in. And for a change, it wasn't me being called a bald twat. It was Terry. So Terry, welcome to the Troll Club. He just called him a bald twat for liking the shirt. The good news is the shirt, which you can see there, will going on auction, public auction on my Twitter account this week. Once I get a hold of it on Sunday for the food bank, I will sign it to make sure it's worth a little less, but it will be going on Twitter on probably Sunday night, Monday morning, and you will get a chance to bid for it and raise some much valuable funds for the food bank. As always, pleasure to spend Friday night with you guys watching. Thanks to all the moderators for keeping the chat clean. Thanks to everybody for suggesting a few talking points. But most of all, thanks to Steve, Mitch, Buramag, Joe, Keith Patterson, and Andrea for their contributions. And, of course, Elliot as well. Take care, lads. Have a great weekend.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, everyone.
Take care.